This is the new foresight replication enhanced session type in CSM. CSM has had a foresight session solution for a while now. However, with the changes that have been made in the DS 8000 9.4 release of the microcode, we're able to do a lot more things, and so we created a new session, foresight session, that takes advantage of that. First off the bat, you'll see that this session type has journals at every site. So the journal volumes are used by Global Mirror on DS 8000 in order to form the consistency groups. And so by having journals at every site, we open up this session to a lot more possibilities in terms of being able to global mirror between regions and the different error scenarios you might hit. And I'll cover some of those in this demo. But first, let me kind of talk about the basics of the session. So the session is really a two-region solution which provides, very symmetric, provides you metro mirror and global mirror no matter which region or site you're running from. And so in this setup here, H1, H2, that would be a metro mirror, that's your local region. And then H1 to H3 is a global mirror over to your second region, where H3 and H4 would cover your metro mirror if you have to run in region 2. So as you imagine the line split into two here. It's very symmetric, but this session provides you a lot of options and capabilities. So let's go ahead and get started. Bring up the start menu. You can see you can start in various forms. You can start the global mirror. You can start between different sites. The default site usually is the H1, H2, H1, H3. So let's go ahead and start that up. So what this is doing is establishing a metro mirror relationship between H1 and H2, and then setting up the global copy and then eventually the global mirror between H1 and H3. H1, H2, you do have your option to set up hyperswap. I don't have hyperswap set up in this demo. I kind of need two sysplexes in each region. Don't have that available, but it works. The hyperswap can be set up on that and those H1, H2 pairs. Or if you go to the other region, H3, H4. So now we're just waiting for the session to go prepared, and then we can start the fourth leg here. All right, session when prepared, you can see metro mirror relationships are duplex on the hardware, they're prepared. Should you have a disaster, you'd be able to recover to H2 or hyperswap if you have hyperswap enabled. Global mirror is going too, so H3 is forming consistency groups. If you need to recover to that region, you'd be able to. So let's go ahead and start the replication to the foresight now. So in the existing foresight solution, we only provide the 3 to 4 replication in global copy mode. So this would not provide that capability to have consistent data on the H4. You have to do a pause and then wait for everything to drain, and then you can suspend and recover to get a consistent image and safeguarded copy. However, what we added in this foresight enhanced session is the ability to start global mirror from H3 to H4. So let me explain this a little bit. The hardware cannot actually cascade global mirror. It can't form consistency groups on both the H1, H3, and H3 and H4 legs in this scenario. However, what we designed was with the hardware was a solution where you could cascade global mirror so that when you're taking safeguarded copy backups at your H4 site, you can minimize the amount of time that H1, H3 leg is paused in order to get a consistent copy at H4. If you go look at the previous accelerates in the past, you'll see they didn't accelerate on this solution. Well, all I did was build that into this foresight enhanced session. You don't need two different CSM sessions anymore. It's built in, so if you start GM H3, H4, which I'm about to do, it will set everything up and get you ready so that you can start that process in order to create a safeguarded copy or flash copy off of the foresight in this case. So now things are set up. This is your normal running mode, prepared normal. You got metro mirror, you got global mirror, and you're getting the data to the H4. It's global copying, it's just not consistent. And now you want to create a safeguarded copy. Now normally you could do this or set it up for so you can do it in a scheduled task. But what I did was create a easy set of commands that you can put in that scheduled task so that you wouldn't have to configure a scheduled task for each of the different sites. It should be a similar, one scheduled task can kind of cover it all. So suspend foresight in this case is going to suspend the H3, H4 leg. And like I mentioned, it has to pause H1, H3 first. Then we pause H3, H4. H3, H4 forms a consistency boot, pauses, and CSM will then be able to immediately resume H1, H3. So let's go ahead and do it. You'll see what happens. And just like that, the back leg is paused, the front leg is resumed, and your DR is protected, but now a backup can be created. In the scheduled task, you would just call a backup on the safeguarded copy session, and then when you're ready, you'd be able to resume that fourth leg. So you would just, you could be part of the scheduled task as well. You would say the resume GM foresight, again, a generic command, and resume. And that sets things back up so that now data is copying back to H3, H4 for global copy, and you're primed and ready for the next backup. Okay, so now let's talk about some of these transitions that can occur. So one of the concerns was that if you're running this in the existing foresight session, should you lose H3, which is your global mirror target, what do you do, right? Because there was nothing set up to replicate from H1, H4 at the time, and you can't do H2, H3 because H3 is down. So how do you get your data to the region 2? H4 is good, but H3 is down. So that's where the 9.4 microcode comes in. We're using what they're calling cascaded incremental resync. So when we set up that H3, H4 relationship, we actually set up a bitmap between H1, H4 that allows us to replicate H1, H4 in the event that H1, H3 goes down. So I'm not going to pull cables today, but let's simulate it by simply suspending it. So I'm going to suspend that H1, H3 leg. All right, so now he's down. We're going to go to the start menu again, and you'll see now there's a start GC H1, H4 command. What this is going to do is use that cascaded incremental resync bitmap we set up so that now we can take the data, the production that's still running on H1 and replicate it H4 without a full copy. So I'm going to issue that. And immediately you can see now we're replicating, global copies going. CSM has to catch up with the percent complete because we run the polars in the background, but it was not a full copy. Relationships are set up. We did have to fail over H4, H3. You'll have to restart that in the opposite direction. But now you'll be back to your global mirror mode here in a minute because we'll start up and we'll issue the start H1, H2, H1, H4 command. All right, we're back in prepared state. So now you're back to a metro mirror global mirror setup. H3 was down, but you're able to get region 1, region 2 replication running. All right, so now H3 comes back. Now you can simply set up GM from 4 to 3. This is the exact same thing as when you set up GM from 3 to 4. And we're going to set that up, and global mirror will be primed and ready for your backups to now be taken at the H3 site. All right, and you can see now global mirror is set up on H4, H3, but your actual DR is H1, H4. So you'll see though that we now have our suspend foresight capabilities. Issue that suspend foresight. Boom. We paused and resumed H1, H4, but we have a consistent image at H3. Take your backup, and then you can resume the foresight. And you're up and running again. All right. So that covered a GM target failure. But now let's cover a metro mirror recovery. So say we had to go H1, H2, and a disaster happened at H1. So I'm going to simulate that by suspending the whole session. So both H1, H2, and H1, H4 in this case will be suspended. All right, now they ended up suspended, and so we are going to, again, site 1 is down, so we're going to recover to site 2. We don't want to do a region switch. We just want to recover to the metro mirror target. All All right, so now we're covered to H2, and you have your options. So if this was just a temporary disaster, you can choose to stay there. But if you actually move your production to H2, you would say the confirm production at site 2, and this is going to enable the replication, the commands that will replicate from site 2. So we'll pull up the start menu, and you can see now I have this H2, H1, H2, H4 relationship. H4 H3 I should say is actually still running, still there, but obviously no data is going to it because we stopped that replication. But now let's restart it to 1, 2, 4 using the multi-target bitmaps on the hardware. And there we go, we're prepared. So running at site 2, metro mirror, global mirror, you're protected, and forming consistency groups at H3. If you wanted to see the suspend commands, there they are. I'm not going to go through them right now because we already did before. All right, so one more scenario I want to cover is actually the region switch. So now let's go ahead and suspend again. Let's say in this case it was a planned region switch. We'll suspend and wait for it to go to suspended state. There, it's suspended, and now we're going to recover to the other region. So in this case, instead of recovering the metro mirror target, I'm going to recover to the site 4 because that's a global mirror target, and we can move production to the H4. All right, now the production's there, and we can confirm production's at site 4, and then we'll start from site 4. So here we have now metro mirror is going to be what we use for H4, H3, but we'll global mirror back to H2 because that's what we were using before, and then we can set up that global mirror for safeguarded copies to take backups at H1 once we're complete there. And there we go, we're prepared. Now running at H4, metro mirror, global mirror again, you're set up. You'll be able to start your global mirror 2 to 1, get that going, and once that's going, you'll be able to take backups at H1. And with that, you'll see we're back in a prepared state. The GM is running H2, H1 for your safeguarded copies at H1. H4, H3 is doing metro mirror. H4, H2 is global mirror. Running everything at site 4 and region 2. Hyper swap can be set up 4 to 3, and you're set to go. So I think that covers most of the different kinds of transitions, etc. You can set up and run in the session type or handle with certain disasters, and you'll see that it's quite flexible. Has all the capabilities that you might need in a foresight symmetric 2-region solution.